All right, welcome in. We are live. The Elite Eight is set. We just watched Houston take down Purdue, a very feisty Purdue team. Purdue hung around in a way I did not expect them to. I thought Houston would make life very difficult for the Boilermakers, but in front of the home crowd, they made a game of it. And in the end, a Kelvin Sampson baseline out of bounds play is the winner for Houston. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Auburn's explosion down the stretch when it looked like Michigan had them there for a second. Made it very, very interesting. Michigan State Ole Miss, probably not a great basketball game, but it was a close game, and it was an entertaining game. And in the end, it was a game that came down to the wire for a spot to the Elite Eight. Michigan State marches on. And then Tennessee, the game that I thought was going to be the game of the day, Tennessee-Kentucky, really wasn't. And Tennessee just kind of had their way with Kentucky and proves the old adage, it's hard to beat a team 3 times in one season. So Tate is here, as he always is. Reegs is joining us on the couch, which he's probably not in a great mood after his Wildcats got spanked a little bit, but we'll talk about that. We'll start probably with Houston. Before we get to that, though, I want to talk about DraftKings. When it comes to college basketball and March Mania, one thing is for sure, nothing's for sure. Upsets, buzzer beaters, Cinderella's advancing, top seeds going home early. It's all going to happen. Bet the unexpected every upset every day with DraftKings Sportsbook with live betting, exclusive content, promos, and parlays. DraftKings is the ultimate college basketball destination for March. Ready to make your first bet? Check out the matchups and pick a team to win. It's that simple. First time, here's something special just for you. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Bet the unexpected with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code Titus. That's code Titus, T-I-T-U-S, for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. All right, boys. We said it was going to be a chalky tournament, and I'll be goddamned. Look at this Elite Eight. 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-3. Those are your seeds of your Elite Eight.
Cinderella. Texas Tech.
Texas Tech is the Cinderella of this thing. So let's talk about the games tonight. Let's start with the one we just got done watching. Houston draws up the baseline out of bounds play. Milos Uzan jumps back into the play. And when it happened live, I'll be honest, I didn't think that it was drawn up that way. I thought it was like an instinct. I'm now on the fence because I don't know if a coach can really draw up like. I'm sure the guy, because Braden Smith's guarding the ball. Braden Smith sees a screen happen, and I think Matt Painter told him to do this, and I assume, or I don't know, maybe it was just instinct from Braden Smith. Braden Smith suddenly is like, I'm going to stop guarding the ball. I'm going to follow the guy who they're probably running the play for, right? And then Uzan steps in and gets the ball back, and yeah, it looked like Houston meant it, quote unquote, but at the same time, can you really draw that up as a coach? Can you anticipate that like the guy guarding the ball is going to run to the other way? So I don't know who gets the credit for it, but it was a moment of genius, and Houston gets the win.
Yeah. So when I coached, we did the exact same thing Purdue did there, which is the person guarding the inbounder. You are who gets the last person. At some point, someone's going to screen the screener and roll, and we're going to be caught one man short. You go find them.
Right.
So I thought what Braden Smith did was very common to what someone would do throughout. Like that wasn't an instinct. He is supposed to go get the last person coming down the middle. He did that. The question is, did Houston know he was going to do that? Did Houston
scout that? Yeah, and maybe they did. Honestly, I
think they did.
They probably did. Yeah, like
this
is probably something Purdue does often.
To me, that's hitting the second receiver, like like for football, where something tells me like this was the play that Purdue had scouted. Like this is Houston's go-to. I'm sure they've used it before, late in a shot clock, late in the game scenario. And Kelvin probably said in the huddle, like, "Hey, if option 1 isn't here, remember option 2 is this inbound pass."
Yeah,
Uzan steps in.
They have a tendency to
look
do this,
right there.
Look for this. Yeah.
Because like you said, like, it's not uncommon for Braden Smith or whoever is guarding the ball to follow there, especially it was 2.2 on the clock. That's Houston basketball. That's Kelvin Sampson, and he's such a good coach. I'm blindly thinking he designed it.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like they meant to do that. Yeah. You know, like it looked like there was no hesitation. There was no hesitation. Was it Tugler that got the ball and passed it? I forget who. But it was immediate. He caught it. He saw him right away. Uzan didn't even hesitate. Just jumped right back in. So yeah, you have to assume that they drew it up. But it's just crazy to think like you're in a huddle and like you said, Reeves, that speaks to how good Kelvin Sampson is. I mean, if he's in the huddle and they either scouted this in advance, and I admittedly I did not spend the week leading up to this game breaking down how Purdue guards baseline out of bounds plays. And I assume Houston did. Either they scouted it in advance and they're like, all right, they have a tendency to do this, or they didn't know that this was coming. He just put it in their head that like, hey, if this does happen, there's a chance it might. be ready for this. Either way, it was one of those things that like made Purdue kind of look stupid, frankly. But I think it was more genius on Houston's part than it was like, what the hell are you doing, Purdue? You know?
Yeah, that's great play versus bad defense. Like it should be talked about strictly as great play.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks for Purdue, but that's the way it goes sometimes. I will say this before we're going to spend a lot of time as we talk about this game talking about the Houston side, because they are the 1 seed and they are the team. Last night when we were sitting in this chair, we said we believe. I think all three of us agreed it was that Duke and Houston are probably better.
Mm-hmm. I think they're the best team in the country.
Yeah, we like them both better than all these SEC teams, even though the SEC is obviously the most dominant conference and is having a hell of a tournament, had a hell of a season. But I want to quickly just give Purdue a little shine, because I said last night I didn't think this would be a very good game. I thought Houston's defense would just swallow Purdue alive. I felt like Houston has the DNA of a team that gives Purdue problems. This type of Purdue team, this era of Purdue basketball, which is like the Smith-Lawyer era, basically. Yeah. It felt like this is the kind of team that Purdue runs into, and they just like realize we're just not on this level. And last year, you kind of saw that. Like, obviously, Purdue makes it to the national championship game, and then they put up a good fight. Edey had a monster game, but like the story of that game was like these guards are just outmatched, and there's just nothing you can do when you're going up against better athletes and long arms and all that. And I felt like, I don't think Houston's as good as UConn was last year, but it had a similar feel to me going in, that I was like, Houston's defense is so good. And yeah, I love Braden Smith and I love Lawyer when he gets going, but like I just don't know how Purdue's going to be able to create enough opportunities to stay in this thing. And Lawyer was, especially in the first half, hitting everything and was just carrying the offense. At one point they had like 18 points and he had 12 of them.
Yeah,
maybe they had like 16 and he had 12 of them. Braden Smith assisted on literally every field goal Purdue scored in the second half. But I thought the story for Purdue, if you're reducing it down to one bullet point, I thought this is a Purdue team that did not guard the ball well at all season. Maybe not all. They had their stretches here and there. But this was not a good defensive Purdue team. And in the same way I came away from the UConn-Florida game impressed in a losing effort with UConn's defense, that was my takeaway on the Purdue side, was like, they made life more difficult for Houston than I anticipated, and there was a lot of standing around on Houston's side of when Houston had the ball and when they were on offense, and Purdue was rotating and helping the helper and playing a level of defense that I haven't seen a ton from them this year, and certainly not against a team as good as Houston. So yeah, I thought that was kind of the story of the game, and you kept waiting for Purdue to go away, but like Houston couldn't pull away because I thought Purdue was guarding it well, one, and two, they were really methodical on offense, and they are. Purdue's really, really good offensively. Like, that part's not a surprise. It's more we've seen Purdue, like I said, you just like when they run up against elite defensive teams that have athleticism, that's when they kind of take that big step back. And they didn't do that tonight, and I thought Purdue played really, really, really well. But yeah, Houston in the end had the baseline out of bounds play and gets the win and marches on. So
and credit to Purdue. I guess credit to Purdue. I'm starting to get a little nervous about Houston. Houston was up 10 in the second half, and that's when I think myself for sure, and I think most people watching the game thought that would then get pushed by Houston to 15 and kind of coast to a win that way. They did it against Gonzaga. They did it against Purdue now. Mm-hmm. I'm a little nervous. Again, I don't want to knock them because they're finding ways to win. That's all that matters right now. But, going forward, when you're now talking about Tennessee or then either, Duke or Alabama.
Yeah.
Like, these
there are no easy games left. Not that Purdue was an easy game, but like at this point in the tournament, there's no.
You're not going to be
if the bracket breaks exactly how you want it to break, you're still staring on the barrel at three very difficult games.
Yeah,
if you want to win a national championship.
At Tennessee, Alabama, and Texas Tech if you play the worst seeds.
By the way, that's always interesting to me, is that like it feels like the tournament's getting close to an end, and obviously we have 8 teams left. We started with 68, but each individual team is only halfay there. They've won 3 games. And you're like, oh my God, we can taste it. And you're like, you're halfway there, and now you have to beat
tougher.
Now you have to win 3 more, except they're against the best teams in the country.
Yeah,
that's what's left.
And this is a night, like, as a fan, where you start to get sad because it's only standalone games from here on out.
That's right.
No, like, day games are done. Yeah, outside of Sunday, but it's like. I kind of miss, like, it goes by so fast, but like you said, like, it's
bittersweet because the standalones I like because you can actually lock in and feel the ebbs and flows of every game instead of like
But the madness
bounce around. But that's the appeal of the madness is there's 8 games going on. You're trying to make sense of all of them. And you're almost like not even watching any of them. You're just like kind of like a stockbroker just watching a stock. You're like, oh, this scores this. Oh my God, it's a 6-point game. Let's throw it over to the. Oh wait, but this one's a 3. Let's throw it over to this one. And it's chaos. And now it's all standalone games. But back to the Houston Purdue thing. Cam Heidi, and then I'll get off Purdue and we can just talk about Houston. Cam Heidi, shout out to this kid for just becoming a knockdown 3-point shooter in the second half of the season, and he hit the big shot for Purdue to tie the game. And he hit it so confidently, and it wasn't like a shock. And he hit some tough shots tonight. He was 3 for 6 in this game from 3. He was 1 for 1 against McNeese. He was 2 for 4 against High Point. He was 1 for 2 against, like I'm looking back on like all this run he's had. He shot the ball well. I mean, going all the way back to like I don't know, like mid-January it looks like was, he started to turn it on a little bit, but towards the tail end of the season, Cam Heidi wasn't a volume shooter, but he just became like a knockdown guy. And Purdue, as we talked about, like one of the issues I had with him was 3-point shooting. Like they shoot a good percentage, they just don't take the shots because they don't have enough guys willing to step into them and take them. And he kind of became not like the go-to 3-point shooter, but like he was a guy that like by the time the end of Purdue season got here and you're watching tonight, every time Cam Heidi would get the ball swung to him and he's open, I was like, I think that's going in. Like this guy's become a knockdown shooter. He's a great athlete. I'm excited to see what he can become.
Well, especially with Purdue, this was, what did we say? This was going to be like their down year.
Right.
And all of a sudden now you look ahead to this down year, their Sweet 16 team. Smith and Lawyer, juniors, they're not going to the NBA. They'll be back. I think Trey Kaufman-Renn is projected in the second round right now. He might be one of those.
Back. Yeah.
NIL make more sense to just come back. Cox was a freshman. Heidi's a sophomore. Colvin's a sophomore. This team is going to be as experienced as there's going to be next year coming into college basketball. Yeah. So not a bad down year going down at the buzzer in the Sweet 16 to Houston.
Heidi's also kind of like a tournament merchant. He had that dunk last year.
That's right, yeah.
Like, Cam Heidi I think every March we just need to start remembering, as long as Cam Heidi's in college and in the tournament, he's gonna do something that goes. That's a big moment.
Yeah, he's gonna matter. All right, so Houston, you kind of touched on it, Reegs. Yep. We still. I'll just speak for myself. I still believe in Houston. But I can't unsee what I've seen. I mean, I'm at a point now, and again, context. I've been a Duke Laser all season, and I've been the guy that's been saying I think Duke's the best team in the country all season. But like, I think from what you've seen so far, Duke is the only team that you feel like has total control over the games that they're playing in from start to finish, and there's really no. I don't mean to say there's no. There's not bad stretches or they don't make dumb turnovers and all that, but like there just seems to be like a trust or like there's like a well-oiled machine on offense and defense. Yeah, teams will hit tough shots on them, but they seem to have answers. Houston was kind of that, but like I think these last 2 games now, I'm starting to. I didn't love what I saw on the offensive end, and that's what worries you about Houston. Now this team was supposed to be different, and they have been for most of the season, and they still at this point in the season, they've lost 1 game in regulation all year. It was the second game of the season for them. So like you kind of said, Riggs, like you have these concerns, but also they always find a way to win these games, and that's ultimately all that matters. But watching Purdue, saying they put the clamps on them might be overstating it, but there were way too many possessions where Houston was just kind of standing around. Not a ton of offensive creativity. LJ Cryer couldn't get anything going, and that worries me now that we shift into an Elite Eight, which, like I said, like it's bangers only from here. You're gonna have to go Tennessee. You're gonna have to go. If Bama can pull off the upset, like that helps in terms of like how you're gonna attack the other defense, because going up against Bama's defense is gonna be easier probably than going up against Duke's. But just the run that they're facing. No matter who they're going to play, I don't think they can afford to have nights like tonight where the offense is kind of grinding to a halt. And some part of you is like, this is actually good for Houston because this is what Houston basketball is. They play very slow. They're very defensive minded. But I think that's what scares me is one, Houston has more often than not fallen short in the NCAA tournament. And yes, they've been extremely unlucky a lot of the time. But I do think that like going back to like the Virginia runs. And ultimately when Virginia gets over the hump, it's an analogy I keep going back to because like that is so like distinct in your mind that like Virginia just couldn't get over the hump, and then they have to like tweak things, and then they finally do. And I guess I'm saying all that to say, watching tonight, I felt like I'm watching the version of Houston that gives you pause and says like that's a good team. I don't know if it's a great team that can win the national championship.
I'm completely opposite. because you mentioned how this feels like, oh, kind of typical Houston or Houston that we've seen before. Houston we've seen before doesn't win that game when LJ Cryer was like 2 for 20. They have so many other options, and it's Uzan who Uzan went 6 for 10 from 3, 6 for 9 from 3. They can survive with their kind of go-to guy having an off night, and they couldn't do that.
Yeah,
they couldn't do that in years past. Now, yes, I am concerned about the blown leads when the offense does lack creativity. I thought the offense did have a ton of creativity and a bunch of open looks for the first 30 minutes. They missed a ton of shots, and then they kind of went, tightened up and everything. That's where I get a little concerned, but it just feels like a different Houston team because they survive this sort of game with LJ Cryer being almost a complete negative almost on offense.
Yeah, but I guess that's my concern is like, how is LJ Cryer negative against Purdue? Like Purdue,
I think
that just can't happen against Purdue.
Yeah, but I think
Purdue,
it's an off night.
And the thing is it's not going to get any like their reward for beating Purdue is now it's this dogfight that we've been talking about since midway through the season, which is what's going to happen if Houston and Tennessee match.
They'll score in the hundreds. Watch
the over under. Any predictions?
It's probably like 1.5. Probably more than that. 126.
Is it 199 and a half?
It's 122, which is extremely low compared to the rest. And it's 2 top 3 defenses in the country, and I don't know. I feel like
in a football stadium,
watching the two teams play tonight, Tennessee looked like they could.
Who's? I mean, I assume Houston's favorite. What is it? 2.5?
Yeah. So to get into the lines,
I'd say that sounds about right.
It's 4.5.
4.5,
which I think goes to show what you've been saying for a long time, which is the number 1 seeds are head and shoulders above, the rest of the field.
Yeah,
because every line's opened up higher than we all thought.
We have 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 3, and our lines are 4.5, 5.5, 6.5, 6.5. Those aren't really close when you think about the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. By the way, I'm looking at KenPom right now. The Elite 8, all of them are in the top 9 on KenPom. Gonzaga's the one. Gonzaga's the one outlier. Gonzaga's 8. They're above Gonzaga. They're above Texas Tech.
That's Kenneth Pomeroy right there.
What? Kenneth Pomeroy. Yeah. He knows his shit. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a fascinating game. Houston, Tennessee, in a lot of ways, feel like similar programs, similar approaches to the game, similar ideals founded on defense. But also, like they're not. They both have addressed through the years like the offensive side of things and have multiple scores, multiple options. So I think that's going to be an awesome game, even though it'll probably be low scoring and it'll be very slow and points might be hard to come by. But
watch them just light it up now. We say this and it's going to be like 98, 96.
Let me tell you this, it is not.
I know, but it's just like everything that we keep saying outside of it being a chalky tournament seems to be going like just a complete opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so now we have it's. Yeah, I don't know. Houston and Duke are on a collision course maybe, but yeah, you still got these SEC teams. You got the 4 SEC teams left, and all of them can meet in the Final Four.
Come on, Reegs. You got to say it, Reegs.
Remember when Selection Sunday when we called Tate for SEC?
I just 3 things I said.
You got 4 games left, buddy.
100%, but I had St. John's losing the second round. Yeah. I said Ben Mintz is going to make a run, and this whole company's going to be annoyed with it. I said SEC 4 teams on Final Four, so we'll see.
I can't get over picking. I wanted to take Texas Tech over St. John's so badly, and then Riggs was like, "You got to double down." I said it's bad caddy,
and I did say,
I'm like staring at a fucking. There's like there's a whole forest in front of me, and there's like one little sliver, but I could just punch out and put it back in the fairway. And my caddy's like, dude, you're gonna hit it right through those trees right there.
I trusted you.
Just fucking rip it right through those trees, and it's gonna stick.
Hey, I led that off by saying I'll be the devil on your shoulder. and Tate was saying the other thing.
To your credit, if you did that, and then St. John's was the team we're talking about,
I know all the credit.
Of course, dude.
No, he would be he'd be like, God damn.
Yeah.
Dude, of course. Yeah, I'm not taking responsibility for my own actions. That's not what I do here on the Mark Titus Show. All right, we're going to talk about the other games. I want to first mention that Venmo is with us all throughout March. Sign up for the Venmo debit card in seconds and add your card instantly to Apple Pay or Google Pay to use the balance right away with no monthly fee and no minimum balance requirement. Earn up to 5% cash back at top brands when you shop with the Venmo debit card, whether you're splitting the bar tab or snacks for the watch party at home. Use Venmo debit card for the game day assist. The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp. Bank NA pursuant to license by MasterCard International Incorporated. Dosh offer terms apply. Start spending your Venmo balance instantly with a Venmo debit card. Sign up today at venmo.com/card/apply. All right, in Atlanta, let's talk about those two games, and then we'll get back to the Tennessee-Kentucky game and let Reegs have his therapeutic session. But, I mean, like I said at the top, like that was the game I thought would be the most interesting, and it just wasn't. And
not to cut you off, but I just saw a number 1 seed stat for you from Evan,
hit me with it.
From Evan Mayakawa.
Yeah.
Despite all 4 1 seeds making it to the Elite Eight, there's just a 17% chance of them all advancing to the Final Four.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Tate, you need one of those teams not to get there for your 4-team SEC.
So
yeah.
The problem is I'm the one I don't have is Duke, and I would say,
or 2 of them, I guess.
But point being, Duke's the one that throughout the entire tournament we've still been every time been like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Everyone else is now giving us a cause for concern. Duke is the head and shoulders.
There's a madness tweet. Everyone's complaining about Chuck. There's your madness tweet. 17% chance.
Every team, I guess Bama though. I guess that's what makes Duke Bama tomorrow. And I promise at some point we're gonna talk about what happened in Atlanta tonight. But I guess that's what makes Duke Bama so interesting is that are those the only 2 teams left in this thing that I guess Tennessee might be that haven't had moments where you're like, oh fuck, they're gonna lose.
I don't know. Robert Morris.
They're going to lose.
Robert Morris game?
That's right, Robert Morris. Bama had that with Robert
game.
Morris. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's a great point. Duke is I guess that explains why I'm so high on Duke. And again, I got to contextualize it even though I am the top glazer of Duke right now.
Is it really just Duke?
I don't actually believe that they are unbeatable, and I don't think that it's Duke versus the field or anything, but
Auburn.
I think it stems from that is that Duke is the only team, right, that hasn't looked.
Auburn a little bit.
I mean, Auburn was down 10.
Auburn
but
tonight.
That's but they just go on those runs.
Auburn, I checked the live bet. I think Michigan got up to -3.5.
Really?
Yeah, at one point.
Wow.
They were up by 9. Yeah.
So yeah, then
where it was like, oh shit, this might be real. And of course,
and
Auburn,
Tennessee, I guess.
Yeah, Tennessee was one that stood out to me too. I don't remember Tennessee ever having a moment in this tournament.
Yeah, the second half they're up big on UCLA.
Where you're worried about Tennessee winning. But point is, as top heavy as these teams are, we've had some close calls, and it's set it up for some banger Elite Eight games. So let's talk about the games in Atlanta. The Auburn-Michigan game, which was the late game, we just said Michigan was up, I think, 9? Were they up 9, 10?
Michigan was up 10.
10?
49-39.
There was a 20-2 run from Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
Like that.
Chaotic game. It was so chaotic, in fact, that I started searching for some evidence that the ball was overinflated, which you don't need much because it's well documented that they overinflate these balls at certain sites. And then I'm thinking back on the Michigan State Ole Miss game, and I was like, that was pretty sloppy too. Not as sloppy as Michigan Auburn, but that was. I know Michigan turns the ball over like crazy, but Auburn was also just joining Michigan, and let's just throw this thing all over the place.
Behind the back pass.
Let's get the Chad Baker-Mazara behind the back pass
into the alley-oop on the other side.
Into the alley-oop that was 19 feet over.
Insane. And yeah, I guess this was the best and worst of Auburn all in a 40-minute span, I would say. This is if you want to believe in Auburn, watch the last 12 minutes, was it? 10 minutes, whatever. If you want to have your serious concerns about Auburn and you want an explanation as to how a team that put together maybe the best NCAA tournament resume we've ever seen in terms of the quad 1 wins and the schedule and all that, how that team could limp into the NCAA tournament after losing, what was it, 3 or 4 to enter the tournament?
3 or 4.
Just watch the opening of this game, the first 30-ish minutes of the game. That was an Auburn team that, as I've said before, I feel like they are almost celebrating. First of all, they lead the country in getting the crowd going. Then it's not even close.
Well, they've got
the
best. They've got the best. You can say Cooper Flagg was Player of the Year. Cardwell is my Player of the Year right here.
But Johnny Broom is leading.
Johnny Broom's up there, dude. He goes box, thumbs down.
They celebrate completing a pass from me to you, and it's cartwheels.
I love the energy. If you can channel it for good. I think my concerns with Auburn is that they play like they're up 30 at all times, and they just make reckless passes and just insane shot selection. And Miles Kelly, it was a tight game down the stretch. Denver Jones was hitting everything, and he was kind of the guy that helped build some breathing room. And Pettiford started cooking for real. But Miles Kelly is a great shooter, no question about it. One of the better shooters in the country. But he starts out on a heat check almost, and he approaches every shot like he's already hit, like he's 9 for 10 from the 3-point line, and he got a couple threes blocked because he's just like he's getting challenged on these shots, and he's like, fuck it, I'm gonna just fade away and hit this over. I'm gonna spray this guy's face right now, and then it just gets a shot blocked, and I'm like, what is going on with the shot selection, with the turnovers, with the defense? Like, this is insane, and I feel like this has been a theme with Auburn for a little while now. Like, and that's what makes you concerned about them. And then Tahad Pettiford starts going off, and Denver Jones starts going off, and you watch the Auburn guards against the Michigan. The Michigan guards have been playing really, really well up until tonight, which explains like the run through the Big Ten tournament and the run through this NCAA tournament. But on this night, it was a story of one team that has elite guard play and one team that or has had elite guard play all season, and the other team that has not. And I think that's what ultimately, for a matchup that was like the 2 7-footers versus Janai Broome, it came down to the guards, and Auburn just has better guards, and that's ultimately what won this game.
And what's terrifying is you're talking about Pettiford and Jones, who are typically your third and fourth option, I would say. Like, Pettiford comes off the bench.
Yeah, he's literally comes off the bench. I think he started one game all season.
And you can, I guess, decide who do you think is their second option. Obviously, Broome's one. Is it Baker Mazzaro?
I think it's either Baker Mazzaro or Miles
Mazzaro
Kelly.
Thinks it's Baker Mazzaro.
Yeah. Miles Kelly,
I guess.
If he's hot.
So you're talking somewhere between 3 and 5 in your options, and they're the ones with Broome, obviously, and what he brings when the ball's into the post. But they're the ones that flip that game on its head, and that's where you take a breath from watching chaos for 35 minutes and go, oh yeah, that's why they're number 1 overall seed and why they can win a title.
That happens in a snap of a finger.
They have the roster. I know we've talked about the holes now in Florida, or the hole in Auburn, or what we saw from Houston tonight. Auburn has the roster to compete with Duke. If they can put it on, like Auburn's roster, you just said it. Baker, Mazzaro, and Kelly are their 2-3. They had 5 and 6 tonight. They had 20 points from 3 other players.
Right.
Yeah.
So like they have a dude coming off the bench that's going to play in the NBA. They've got the stud post. They've got the guard play. They can lock down on defense. If they can put it together, I don't know.
Yeah.
I need these 1 seeds all make the Final Four, Titus.
You want to see all 1 seeds?
Yeah, that's what I want.
Is that what you want?
I mean, why not? Like.
Yeah, the chaotic energy, I think, is not always necessarily a bad thing, but
no, this team needs it.
I think they thrive on it, and that makes them, and frankly, makes them hard to guard. I think like Miles Kelly being willing to take like insane shots is as a defender, you're just like,
you can't
is this motherfucker really gonna?
Yeah, you can't take a breath.
Tahad Pettiford, same thing. Just like you never know when he's gonna pull up, and he pulls a hezzy, and
that and one off the spin fade that he had, where it's just like, as a defender, you're sitting there going, I'll let you fucking shoot this, and then it's just again
the old school, like the guy in me that has gray hair and was raised in Indiana and loved watching Norman Dell, Coach Jimmy Chitwood, like loses my mind watching Auburn at times. But then the part of me that played basketball and remembers guarding guys who were just way more talented than me shits my pants at the thought of like having to guard this Auburn team and just knowing that like they're capable of shooting from anywhere and any way and making any shot. It's insane. So
their chaotic energy makes the other team lock in for 40.
Yeah.
Like Auburn doesn't have to lock in for 40. The other team does because of the runs that we've seen them go on throughout the year.
And that sets up like, listen, all 4 of these matchups are great, obviously, because we have great teams left. But I think the styles of all the teams are incredible. I think like the fact that Houston is playing Tennessee and they are very similar teams. The fact that Auburn and Michigan State are 2 teams that thrive in the chaos almost and love playing up and down and love at times playing sloppy basketball, but like they're built to, they're not the exact same. Like obviously Auburn has better shooting and Michigan State's more defensive minded and wants to crash the board. But I think like the general energy and the shit talking in this game is going to be insane for Auburn, having all the guys that are shit talking and getting the crowd going and all that sort of thing. Michigan State has a long list of dudes that are going to be out there just talking all sorts of shit to these guys. So that's going to be a compelling matchup. Duke and Bama, as we talked about last night, like the offenses that
That's
we've seen
a
from both.
heavyweight
That's a
fight.
heavyweight fight. Florida and Texas Tech, two teams that are great 3-point shooting teams. They get to play each other, and I'm so excited because I think, honestly, if you put all of these teams in a hat, and I had to map out my perfect Elite Eight based on these 8 teams, I might draw it up this way. I might be like, I want to see Houston play Tennessee, obviously. I think Duke-Bama is the best Elite Eight game you could possibly come up with. And then I would probably land on Auburn and Michigan State for exactly what I said. I'm like, all the shit talking that's going to be going on in that game is going to be awesome, and then Florida Texas Tech is going to be great as well. But yeah, Auburn, I think my read on them, my vibe on them is like they're still not going to win the national championship, but
it's getting closer though.
Yeah,
it's getting closer.
It is.
I don't know.
It's getting closer, but like I said, they're halfway there.
Right.
It's like
That's crazy.
this is the part of the tournament where all 8 of these teams are like, we're winning the national championship.
Yeah, you start to truly believe.
Yeah, and you're only halfway there. But yeah, it was very real there for a second. Michigan was playing very well, and Auburn is. I just think they're too undisciplined. I do think that like they got to rein it in a little bit more.
I want to see a coach trade. I want Izzo to coach Auburn and Pearl to coach this Michigan State.
Yeah.
Just for a half. I just want to see how that works.
I want to see how Izzo would handle this.
He would retire on the spot.
Speaking of Pearl, you see the SEC shit?
It was him and Tate leading it.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
On the court.
You probably loved it. Yeah.
Time out. What?
So,
you're saying the SEC.
Yeah, that was,
SEC
you were. I heard you in the cave chanting with him.
You, Rico, and Bruce Pearl, the three biggest
SEC. And then these motherfuckers, Riggs among them, but Big T, less than 48 hours ago, that motherfucker looks me in the eye, and he has the audacity to tell me that that's not a thing SEC people do.
I don't like it. I don't cheer for the conference. I do not cheer for the conference.
I get it. You might not. Big T might not. Brandon Walker might not.
People do.
It's a widespread problem in this conference. It's crazy. You clinch a spot in the Elite Eight. You're the number 1 overall seed, and you got your coach Chan and SEC. It's crazy. Get out of here. But at the same time, congrats to the SEC. Like, I didn't,
That's lame.
I don't
That's
understand.
lame.
I don't understand this,
So
too.
dumb.
Like Big T and Brandon were, for guys that aren't all about the whole conference, they kept turning to me, and they're like, I bet the SEC haters are silent now that we got, 4 in the Elite. And I go, who are the haters? Literally everybody that was watching
All
college
the
basketball.
doubters.
Like, literally, that's all we talked about all
Final
year.
Four is all.
I stopped watching the Big Ten this year because all I would watch is SEC every single night. I was like, this is the greatest conference of all time. This is fucking insane what I'm seeing. And somewhere along the line, the SEC people were like, I bet the haters are silent now. Who are the haters?
There were a couple.
Where are they?
There were a couple dumb talking heads on day 1 of the tournament where, like, the first round of the tournament, where it's like Vanderbilt lost, Mississippi State lost, those teams, and it's like, no, what? That doesn't mean a damn thing. Anyone with a brain isn't going to be like, oh, look at the SEC being overrated.
Yeah.
If Duke wins the title, is everyone going to be like,
yeah, you don't.
The ACC, like,
yeah, the ACC
so
is the best
underrated.
conference. No, it's all so stupid. That's why I go crazy when you talk about conferences in a single elimination event with teams that are. The teams are winning the games.
Each other.
The teams are playing.
There are
insane.
SEC teams playing each other.
Yeah, I've done nothing to change. My opinion on the SEC has not wavered one bit since non-conference play. I was like, this is by far the best conference in the country. As conference play went on, I was like, this is by far the best conference in the country. Now that the NCAA tournament, even when they, your Missouris are losing in the first round, I remember the shows we were doing. I was like, yeah, I mean, it's of note. Like, we'll acknowledge it. Like, it's an interesting trend that might be developing, but like, no, this is insane to, after one round, be like, oh, I guess the SEC's washed when they still have 8 teams left and all their top contenders are still.
It would take every SEC team to lose in like the first weekend.
Anyway,
for that to happen.
I don't know. The Bruce Pearl doing that.
It was just insane.
I was fired up. I was fired up about it only because I got into an argument with like Brandon and Big T about that very thing. He's like, that's not a thing. That's not a thing that actually happens with SEC. We don't chant SEC for other teams. And then you see Bruce Pearl.
I can't believe
this is crazy.
But I love that they do it because then it gives us the opportunity.
And then people like us get fired up.
Well, then Ohio State beats Tennessee in football and the whole horseshoes chanting SEC to mock them. So have your fun.
It's like, I mean, Tennessee football, like that's not a
pointless.
That's
pointless.
They don't even matter. It's
pointless
program. Doesn't count for anything. But yeah, Michigan played really well and yeah, shout out to Michigan. They did have them too sloppy, and ultimately I think the turnovers doomed them, even though they had the same amount of turnovers. They both had 15 in this game. But
they just seemed more costly.
I think, yeah, Michigan's were more costly, and it wasn't just their turnovers. They had like they fumble the ball around the bucket and like have rebounds slip through their. I don't know. They just have clumsy. They're clumsy, and I love Danny Wolf. And there was a time where I was like, should Danny Wolf be the Big Ten Player of the Year? I think he's got a shot, And I was singing his praises, but he's a clumsy fella. He gets pretty clumsy out there, and we saw that a little bit tonight. Even though he had a monster game, Vlad Golden was not as good. Vlad Golden they kind of shut down a little bit, but Danny Wolf sees Auburn. I don't know. He loves playing Auburn. Last year, and tonight with Michigan. But this Auburn team is volatile. They're chaotic. I have no idea what to make of them on any given night. If you told me you're from the future and Auburn beats Michigan State by 20, I'd be like, yeah, I could see it. If you told me that Chad Baker-Mazara got ejected 4 minutes into the game and Janai Broome fouled out and all these things happen, I'd be like, yeah, that makes total sense to me as well.
We still need our Baker-Mazara moment.
I know.
We're getting close. We need it.
Michigan State would be the team to bring it out.
Trey Holloman might spear him at midcourt.
That would be the team to bring it out. All right. Speaking of Michigan State, we'll talk about that in a second. But first, JackPocket. Ordering official state lottery tickets has never been easier. Thanks to JackPocket, America's #1 lottery app, Powerball, Mega Millions, state games like Pick 3 or Pick 4, you name it, they've got it. The JackPocket lottery app is great because you can order tickets whenever you want, right on your smartphone. New customers, you get your first ticket free with code Titus. That's code Titus, Titus, for your first lottery ticket on JackPocket. Download the app today, JackPocket. So Michigan State, Ole Miss. I thought Ole Miss played well. I thought this was a very, very even game. I thought there was nothing that really stood out to me as like that's the reason Ole Miss lost the game. In fact, I thought Ole Miss played better than I expected in a lot of ways, which is to say like they rebounded the ball way better. Ole Miss is not a great rebounding team, and Michigan State, that's their bread and butter. And I thought Ole Miss rebounded it really well. I thought they guarded well. I thought they took advantage and hit open shots. I think in the end it was just like the guard play of Michigan State making big-time plays down the stretch. But I felt like for a program at Ole Miss in their first Sweet 16 since 2001, they have never in the history of their program made an Elite Eight, and they were right there. I don't really feel like they choked it away, and it might feel like they sort of choked it away because they were leading for most of this game, and it was close down the stretch. And as you're watching it unfold, it's like there's some sort of sense of like that's why you're Ole Miss and that's why they're Michigan State and this is why you've never been to the Elite Eight and this is why the other guy on that bench is Mr. March. I don't really feel like it was that way. I think the only reason I got you might get caught up in that is because of the jerseys they were wearing. Where if you just put those two basketball teams out there and blank jerseys and watch that game unfold, you're like, hey, those are pretty two evenly matched teams that played decently well, even though it got sloppy at times, like we thought it would. I think they both are great defensively, and I don't know. This was a good Sweet 16 game to me between two good teams, and in the end, Jace Richardson, Jaden Akins, Jeremy Fear, I thought
Cooper was mad.
Yeah, Cooper was good down the stretch. Jackson Kohler was not good in this game. He was a liability.
He didn't have a shot attempt.
Kohler was not good, and then they turned to Cooper down the stretch, and he was great for him. And I felt like it was a great basketball game, and Michigan State made the plays they needed to make to advance.
You don't see very often where a team out-rebounds Michigan State the way Ole Miss did tonight. They out-rebound them 12-5 on the glass, and out-rebound them 33-29 just overall. So Ole Miss, very good game. I think Chris Beard, all these coaching openings that we've talked about, I don't know what Chris Beard's plan for the future is. I think a lot of teams are passing over a really damn good basketball.
Well, I mean,
but
context, Tate.
100%.
Yeah. Well, I think
they're pass. I mean, I don't think the schools.
Well,
are like,
once another team decides to bring him out, that's how it goes.
Well,
the Kareem Hunt rule.
Well, I mean, Ole Miss is.
It's Ole Miss basketball.
Nothing you said I disagree with. Of course, Chris Beard's a good basketball.
Yeah, no one's.
You think he's not getting hired because of that? That's the reason?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
You mean the guy who took Texas
100%.
Tech to a national title game?
100%.
That's 100% why he would have been Indiana's coach. He would not be coaching in this tournament because he'd already be Indiana's coach.
Yeah, or he'd have Texas in the Final Four.
If it wasn't for that, he'd still be at Texas, and Texas would have already
been in the Final Four.
Well, I get that's why he's not at Texas. But my point is, you're saying would have Indiana – the higher ups made the decision, or would the fans have been like, "That's not our type"?
I think the higher ups. I think
you know what fans care about? Winning.
Yeah, that's all I care
about. Can speak to this. There are certain programs in the SEC that are like, fuck it. Yeah, fuck it.
Oh, 100%.
Fuck it. You know, yeah, we don't care. That's fine.
Well,
You couldn't do this at a few schools, but there are a few schools where you're like, oh yeah, come on over here.
And I think Ole Miss basketball was one of them. But yeah, you're right. You can coach a hell of a basketball team, and they had a great year. And yeah, that's that. Padula was cold ass white boy tonight.
Yeah,
he was
good.
cooking. Yeah,
Morrell was really good for them.
Yeah,
it did just come down to more of a talent thing. I think Ole Miss had 20 turnovers. Like you said, it was sloppy. And again, like Michigan State just has so much depth. Like
they had 20. They didn't have 20 turnovers.
Ole Miss had 20 turnovers.
There's no way.
Pretty sure
they don't turn over the ball that way.
I know. It's what they do. They get leads and then blow it. But Michigan State, like they just have so much depth. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter who's kind of having a good game. That's what I like about them. It's what we touched on with Auburn, where we saw Richardson struggle against New Mexico. Mm-hmm. Other guys pick it up. Richardson was awesome today.
He was awesome.
Kohler sucked today. Awesome. Cooper comes in. It's just Izzo just is like, all right, not your night. You go do this now.
Yeah, and that like helped, like having the criticism or the observation, I guess, I made about Michigan State early in the season, that I felt like they didn't have like top end talent, and obviously Jace Richardson emerged, and I walked all that back, but that becomes a positive for them
100.
Because they don't rely on any one or two
100.
guys. It's just like you said, they can just figure out what combination is working on this night. And Jackson Kohler, I'm looking at the box score now. He almost had an 18 trillion. He barely did anything.
That would have been.
He didn't even shoot.
That would have been
0 shot attempts.
That would have felt like a Hall of Fame starter to put that up. Would have been like a Hall
crazy.
Of Fame.
Yeah, he was kind of nothing on defense. Didn't really grab any rebound.
No.
Like he was just kind of out there. And I don't want to pile on the kid. I think he's a good player, and he's had some really good games for them. And he'll probably play well in the Elite Eight. And he'll bounce back. But that's the luxury Michigan State has is, they can have a couple guys not play particularly well.
I am curious in the Michigan State Auburn matchup because both teams feel like second half teams.
Yeah,
like they both kind of.
That's definitely true. I that's definitely true.
What happened?
Yeah,
we touched on the storylines of styles of play, stylistic play. What happens when two second half teams play each other?
Yeah, they at halftime it's
they
like
both
20.
Want to be down.
It's like 20-15 at halftime.
Yeah,
they both are
want
just
to lose.
waiting for the second half kick. They're just both pacing themselves. No, that's going to be an awesome game for a million different reasons. But the shit talking is number one on my list. I think it's going to be incredible. I want CBS to bring extra cameras to the arena so they can pick up everything. I want
just
angles
give me
of
raftery and that.
Yeah,
that's all we need.
I want a feed too of like I'm scared CBS is going to cut to commercial too soon. Because they got to be careful of like there's a dead ball at the under 12. Let's just throw it to commercial. It's like no. Let's wait for both teams to get back to their benches. Let's make sure everything's.
As Cardwell goes this way and
down.
Baker Mazar goes this way, and then Holloman's going this way.
Yeah.
Let's let it just settle.
In fact, I'm making a bold prediction about the Michigan State Auburn game. We will have at least one instance of while we were at break. Here's what happened. Let's show you. And they show the replay of as you could see walking to the bench, Trey Holloman turns and
over under 2.5 technical / flagrant.
Oh yeah, I'm going over. I want mayhem. I want chaos. I want fucking.
You gotta think Izzo has.
I want blood on the glass. This isn't even hockey, and I want blood on the glass.
That's advantage.
You're just
Michigan
banging on the
State,
glass,
right?
yeah.
That's advantage Michigan State.
Is it?
Well,
I think
Auburn's got the talent advantage. So anytime you can muddy it up and focus less on the talent and more on that stuff, that's advantage Michigan State. And two, I would like to think that Izzo has his boys more in line.
I feel
than Pearl.
I would agree with its advantage in the sense that like I trust Michigan State a little. Like Michigan State is more controlled chaos to me, whereas Auburn at times is just like a runaway train and all chaos.
But that's what they want.
But like you said, they have more talent and are probably the better team. But yeah, it's going to be a fascinating game. How lucky are we, man? What a time to be alive.
Lowest Elite Eight seed total since 2007. They're tied with 2007 ever.
Ever? Well, this is almost
07 or 08 because 08 was the 4.
07 was the lowest total.
07 was who was in that? That would have
been.
Was Ohio State in that one? Yeah, we played Memphis. I think Memphis was the 2. It was 1-2. Florida.
I'm surprised it's not. Wait.
North Carolina was the 1. I think they lost to Georgetown, right?
UCLA, Georgetown.
Yeah.
Florida.
North Carolina, I think, lost to Georgetown on a very close game.
Yeah, the Final Four was Georgia.
Right.
The Final Four, not Georgia.
Georgetown,
Ohio State,
UCLA,
Florida.
The Elite Eight was Florida beat Oregon.
What was Oregon? Were they 3?
Probably 3.
Oregon was the 3.
Yeah.
UCLA beat Kansas. Kansas was the 1.
Yeah.
Georgetown beat Carolina, who was the 1, and Ohio State beat Memphis, who was the 2.
And UCLA and Georgetown were 2s?
Mm-hmm.
How about that?
Florida?
Well, Florida fans are like, I love that.
Yeah, this is.
By the way, this is the other time of the tournament where you start making all the parallels, and you're like, oh, well, 07. Every Florida fan's like, hell yeah. Love it. But then you could do that with probably a bunch of different terms. This is the last time Duke and Auburn were both in the Elite Eight was this year, and then you're like, oh, that's great for us. What else? Let's do Tennessee, Kentucky. Let's give Reegs a moment to reflect. I've said it before. I'll just say it one more time. Like, I thought it would be the game of the night.
Yeah.
It wasn't. Tennessee just kind of blitzed you guys, and it just kind of was never. It was going on at the same time as the Michigan State game, Ole Miss game, which was obviously very close, and Michigan State was down for most of the game and came back and won. So my attention was turned to that game more so than the Kentucky-Tennessee game, and Kentucky-Tennessee just kind of never did anything to get my attention after the first 8 minutes.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't good. Like, the pouty bitch in me is like, it sucks because it does. It sucks when your team loses. It sucks even more when you lose to a rival that you swept in the regular season. It comes down to one play. Kobe Bryant missing the layup on the first play of the game changed the game entirely for me. That was game.
That was game.
Because Kobe Bryant had his worst game in a long time.
Yeah.
He could not make a shot. I think it goes back to that first layup. Our defense, which had been way improved over the last few weeks. Like, if you go on Torvik, we were a well above average defense based on the analytics. We couldn't get a stop. They were just torching us in pick and roll. Lanier just running kind of the curl screen around the free throw line. We couldn't get a rebound. I felt like really only Lamont Butler and Amari Williams showed up. It was just it sucked. That's the pouty bitch in me. It sucks. I'm very upset. Taking a breath and watching a couple games afterwards, I still love Mark Pope. It's 100% the right hire. Looking at the season as a whole, I think it was a successful season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm not. I think most Kentucky fans kind of had moderate expectations coming into the year. You got the Duke win, you got the Gonzaga win, you got the Louisville win, swept Tennessee, you got Florida, you went to Missouri, you're a 3 seed. The roster played 7 games together.
Yeah, the
roster had 7 games together. And that's where I can kind of sit there and be like, all right, like, you don't want to say, like, hey, we'll be back, even though it's Kentucky, you should be back and everything. But it just sucks when your team finally gets, when you're in the moment, that's where it's awful. And Tennessee, like, the regression happened where we shot 12 for 24 both games against them from 3. The regression happened today. We couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
They just dominated us, and it was over way too fast. In the second half, we kind of cut it. We couldn't really get it below like 12 or 11. We get it there. They'd respond immediately with the 3. So it was just a frustrating game in that sense. It was kind of everything that Kentucky hasn't done over the last couple of weeks outside of the Alabama game. So it's brutal. It's not fun watching your team lose in the NCAA tournament.
It's not. No, it's not.
Wouldn't know.
It's not. Yeah.
Not fun. It's been a while.
So yeah, I'm upset, but again,
I bet it's better than watching them lose on Wednesday of the Big Ten tournament against Iowa.
And I said too, it just sucks that it's Tennessee. If we lost to Texas Tech or Michigan State, I would not be nearly as upset. It's a fact that it's a team you beat twice.
The rival you beat twice, yeah. Zakai Ziegler had 18 points.
Look, don't.
Consensus
10
All-American.
assists. It's 18 points. 18
Was that a Reig's revenge game?
for Zakai Ziegler? He listened to the show and he was like, "I got a little something."
I would have went out
I
there.
got a
and
little
defended
something for
him
that
on one
Kentucky
Achilles.
fan that said I'm not an All-American.
He's a stat merchant.
I feel bad. I feel bad for Reig's tonight.
This motherfucker's not good. He just does things that are
The assist is
good.
assist merchant.
The season as a whole, if I would have given you this season beforehand, you would have signed it right away and said, absolutely, I'll take that. What sucks about it is, you beat them twice. And also tonight, by the first media timeout, it felt like the game, you guys were down like 10-4 and it never really got close ever again.
Yeah, it's the fact that like Bray and Owe were almost nothings, Bray especially, and he had been just such an elite shooter. It was just a recipe for disaster happened, and it sucks that it happened right off the bat. Like there was no hope, or minimal hope, pretty early on when you're just like, all right, things are just not going in that typically go in, and then you weren't getting rebounds. So that's where it's brutal. I am kind of surprised Tennessee's here. Like I'm kind of surprised that they've had this run through the tournament.
There was a time, where was it, mid-season, where all of a sudden people really started to jump off that Tennessee train. They lost to Auburn 53-51. They had just lost to Vanderbilt. They got beat by Kentucky. And I feel like we were all like, all right, they can't win 6 in a row.
They scored 43 points at Florida.
Yeah, that was another time.
That was their first. That was
another time.
when they were 14-0. They were number one team in the country, and then they go to Florida and scored 43 points,
and
lost by 30. And it was just like, oh, okay, well,
they
never
lost
mind.
4 of 7.
Yeah,
and I feel like we jumped off the bandwagon. I'll say this: of all these games on Saturday, Sunday, I feel like Tennessee has the best chance to beat Houston.
Of all the underdogs,
I in my opinion, yes.
I would probably agree with that. I think Tennessee. I like Tennessee the best of all the non-1 seeds.
Mm-hmm.
Irregardless, which isn't a word, of matchup. Of the just if you're looking at Michigan State, Alabama, Tennessee, and Texas Tech, I probably like Tennessee the most out of those 4, which is crazy to say after Alabama just hit 25 threes. I just don't trust that that's going to happen again. But
I am curious to see how they match up, because not that it's uncommon, but Ziegler with the height disadvantage against Houston's kind of bigger guards, and then Lanier, he takes advantage of his height on the wing and his ability to kind of shoot over guys and create that way. You just have Houston's defense, and then on the flip side, what Tennessee does defensively, that I think is the most intriguing matchup of the 4.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
I think it's the most intriguing, which probably means it'll be the worst game.
Yeah, it's going to be the best game. It has to be the best game. Just the Duke Bama. The expectation is so high it can only.
That could be the most fun game. Actually, Florida Texas Tech will be the most fun game.
It's coming off of those 2 performances from both those teams. The expectation is so high that I don't think we could possibly deliver.
No.
There's no way, because
it's BYU Alabama kind of part 2.
Yeah, I think I'm expecting 125 to 116 or something final score, and just insane highlight after insane highlight, and it's just not going to happen. So it's not going to happen.
Right, that's not going to happen. But so we don't.
It's not going to happen.
We don't generally dive into predictions and whatever on this show. How do you see this game going?
Duke Bama?
Yes.
I see Duke winning. I see Duke guarding Bama way better than BYU did, and I see Duke running the best offense in the country, and I see Duke winning. I at this point I see Duke winning the tournament, just like I've seen Duke winning the tournament the whole. Anytime you're going to ask me about Duke until they lose, and even after they lose, I still might see them winning. I think Duke is the best team in the country. I think it's not to downplay the rest of the country, but I do think it's a sizable margin where it's without hesitation to me, Duke is the best team. I think there are other good teams. I think Bama could beat them. I think every team left in the field could beat Duke without having to play perfectly. But, yeah, I anticipate Duke running out to the three-point line to guard shooters, having Malawach, having Cooper Flagg, having Ngangba, and erase everything behind them. And, of course, that's not going to happen every possession. Right. Alabama will get hot, and Alabama will go on runs. But I think Duke's offense is very, very good, and Bama is going to have to make basically every open three, and maybe they will, but I doubt they do.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm with you. I think we might be on ass-whooping watch here.
Then, okay, so I was going to ask this to both of you guys. I'm trying to think about it in my head. From 1 to 4, what are the games of the 4 Elite 8 games? How would you rank them in terms of the games you're most excited to watch? I guess based on whether it's fun probability, entertainment probability, closeness of game probability, because obviously stylistics going to change how you view stuff.
That's a great point. That's a great point because go ahead, Tate.
I would say the one I'm most excited for is Tennessee-Houston because I think it's going to be closest, most likely for an upset, dogfight, 2 similar teams. I think the Auburn-Michigan State, for the reasons Mark has pointed out, also piques my interest. I think the hype going into Alabama-Duke is probably the highest across the country, but I think all 3 of us are kind of on the same page that Alabama's going to try to play a certain way. Duke's going to be okay with it and be better at it than them, both on offense and defense, and kind of just run away with that. I don't have much excitement over Florida Texas Tech right now, probably because
that's my number 1.
Oh, Texas Tech.
Florida Texas Tech.
I think that's seed. They don't belong in this.
I think that's going to be the most fun game because they are going to
shoot the piss out of the both.
You kind of have the dumb factor. We've talked about it where Florida will just launch a cross-court pass for no reason that gets picked off. Texas Tech kind of does some dumb things from time to time. I love watching them. I kind of think that's the most fun. Could be I think Tennessee-Houston will be the closest of the games.
Yeah.
But I could see Florida Texas Tech as a 4-point game with a minute to go, and we saw what Texas Tech won't stop playing. They just did it against Arkansas.
I might agree with you. I don't know. Every time I think I have my answer, I look at another matchup and I'm like, no, it's probably that one. Houston, Tennessee is the one that I anticipate being the closest. I think it's going to be the most competitive game. I don't know if it's going to be the most fun game for a casual to watch.
Right.
But if you're looking for a game that'll come down to the final couple possessions, it's going to be that.
I think it's the left side of the bracket as a whole too.
It's good. But it's going to be that one until I look at Florida, Texas Tech, and then I'm like, or it's going to be that one, or it might be Auburn, Michigan State, or it could be Duke.
Right. That's
where we're at, dude. It's all these and we need matchups are awesome.
We need it because we've gotten past the point of everyone bitching about no upsets.
Mm-hmm.
The Sweet 16 I felt like didn't live up to the hype as much as we were all kind of expecting it. At least I came into the Sweet 16 thinking we'd have multiple overtime games.
Yeah.
A little bit more juice. It felt like we had some games kind of over quickly. You get to the Elite 8, you got 4 monster matchups. I hope all 4 deliver. Just give us where it's 2 minutes ago and you're kind of like, I don't know who's winning this.
Yeah, we get Florida, Texas Tech tomorrow, Duke, Alabama. It should be a lot of offense. 2 games that should have a lot of offense in them. I'm very excited for them. I don't know. We can't go wrong. I'm thinking of like what my dream Final Four is, which isn't like what I'm cheering for. It's just more what's good for the sport.
What's going to deliver the best?
What's good for the sport? Final Four. I'm gonna give you my answer right here. This is what I believe is good for the sport.
I know what it is.
I do think it's got to be like I'm gonna start with Duke.
It's
right.
I don't know how.
You want the Cooper flag.
Not having Cooper Flag in the Final Four. Like, of course you're gonna need Cooper Flag in the Final
one.
Four, and you need this Duke team in the Final Four. That's great for the sport. And John Shire going to his first Final Four like that. Nate Oates was there last year, but Duke's got to be there.
Izzo.
Houston, Tennessee, I don't know. Auburn, Michigan State's hard because
that's the hardest one.
Izzo, but then Janai Broom, being player of the year
and the number 1 overall
guy as well, and number 1 overall seed.
All year it was Duke, Auburn, Duke, Auburn, Duke, Auburn. Who's
You're right. You're right.
But then you got Izzo's probably, aside from Cooper Flag, like the main name and draw that you could get.
Yeah.
It's definitely Florida over Texas Tech. No disrespect to Texas Tech, but I think this Florida team has grabbed the country,
We've also
the last
seen
couple
Texas
weeks
Tech in a Final Four more recently.
Yeah, I know. That's crazy. I like this Texas Tech team a lot, and I think they can win the title. I think all 8 teams left can win the title.
100%.
But I think Florida has grabbed the attention of the country the last couple weeks, and Walter Clayton especially has, and I think people would get very excited about the idea of Florida being in the Final Four. So I got Florida and Duke are definitely in for me. Houston, Tennessee is tough because you can make very strong arguments for either one. Tennessee in their first Final Four would, in the history of their program, is obviously a large.
Never getting there is better for me.
The what?
The storyline of them just never getting there is
says the
more
Kentucky
entertaining
fan.
to me. But I think
no shit.
No shit.
I didn't want Michigan to win tonight either.
No shit.
I think Houston's the better story because one, they eliminate you only made it in the COVID bubble tournament, Final Four. You get the redemption or the rebuild of Kelvin Sampson in the program. And they were always the but team. Like, it was always Duke or Auburn, and then someone like me or other people would go, yeah, but you look at Houston over there where they just haven't lost in regulation and they're 19-1 in the Big 12. I kind of think Houston's a better story.
Houston being in San Antonio. So I'm gonna address the South first. I think Michigan State. I think having Tom Izzo in there and that Tom Izzo in the Final Four, it just works. It works for everybody.
Yeah.
And Jace Richardson being there, and that whole thing with his dad, and they get all the Flintstones there, and you have the 2000 team.
They got to be like team captains.
Yeah, like that whole scene would be awesome. And I'm sorry to Auburn. I would my real Final Four would be Auburn, Michigan State, Florida, Duke. I think that's the Final Four that I would want, but that's not possible. So I would do Florida, I would do Michigan State, I would do Duke, and then I hear what you're saying about Houston. I think Tennessee going to their first Final Four. I don't know. I don't fucking know. Why did I ask myself? I'm the one that brought this up, and I don't even have an answer, dude. I don't even have an answer. I don't know. I don't want to.
You yelled at me for my answer.
Whoever it is needs to lose to Duke, anyways. That's the answer.
I would love to see Tennessee in the Final Four. I would love to see Houston in the Final Four. You can't go wrong with any of these matchups. That's why I love the sport, man. It's fucking awesome. The Final Four is gonna be great. The Final Four is gonna be great. Can't wait for it. Can't wait for tomorrow. 2 great games. Anybody got anything else before we get out of here?
I did right.
Oh, hell yeah.
I gave you my best Elite Eight going to the Elite Eight.
Cody's got a little something.
Okay.
This is your Elite Eight.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got 8 of them.
All right. I want to end the show on this, so I want to make sure. Tate Reeves, you got anything else before we go?
No, I'm ready for Cody.
Okay. All right. It's Cody time.
You're ready for
Go ahead, Cody. Hit us with your Elite Eight, and we'll get out of here.
Kentucky looked like they were sleeping on Tennessee. Call that a cat nap.
Not bad.
All right.
I'm going to quit this company.
No, that was better than it's been.
I can't lead off with that.
That was better than it's been.
All right.
Looks like Janai pulled up the broom and swept Michigan off the court.
Yeah, I feel like that one's been used.
Yeah, that one's pretty straightforward.
Purdue, more like don't.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
That's like
This is indeed.
that's like over 100 years old.
yeah.
That's
Looks like Michigan State just Izzo'd their way into the Elite Eight.
Izzo'd.
Wait.
Michigan State just
This
Is that the
Izzo'd.
way?
Remember when he used to explain to us his jokes and we said
Yeah.
stop doing that?
I need him.
Can you explain that one?
That sounds like somebody trying to do John Rusty.
March is Izzo. They march their way to
Oh, see, he always sometimes
he's always got
gets me with
something.
that.
Yeah, he's Mr. March.
It's like the-
yeah, okay.
psych.
I see that. I see that.
the
now.
Rebels not going to the Elite Eight. That's a big ol' miss.
That's your best one.
bad.
That's your best one. That's your best one.
Bad.
You know what they say? A wolf isn't enough to take down some tigers. It takes a pack of wolverines.
Bad.
All right.
What?
They lost.
What? They lost.
And they lost.
They didn't do it alone with Danny Wolf. They needed the whole team.
But even the whole team.
They were all there.
Oh, you're saying
They all needed.
One
They
wolf
didn't
wasn't
show
enough.
up.
He
Yeah, one
needed
wolf.
the
the
whole pack. of
Wolverine. You
wolves.
know, wolves and wolverines are different animals, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just
Yeah,
making
he
sure.
knew
All
that
right.
for sure.
Yeah,
do that.
absolutely.
All right. All right.
The Elite Eight's like the Hunger Games. I guess Tennessee volunteered as tribute.
Oh my God.
I don't know. In 49 states, it's just losing on a last-second inbound play.
All right, that's your best one. That's your best one.
That is the best one.
That's the best one
That's
by
a great
far.
way to end it.
Put
All
that
right.
on his shirt.
We'll be back tomorrow night after the Duke Bama game. Florida Texas Tech, Duke Bama coming up tomorrow. 2 spots to the Final Four on the line. We'll be back tomorrow night to talk about it all. See you guys then.
W. Cody.
Yeah, put that one on his shirt.